Mm.
Welcome, friends. I'm just going to give out just one more minute to make sure we're all good.
Oh, look at all those smiling faces.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, we're going to get started because I have two exciting guests today. My name is Miss Jessica, and I am the upcoming Blue STEM Committee chair member and your host for this session. We're also joined by Miss Flesher, who is our aisle representative, who is kindly helping us with video and audio today. Thank you so much for being here. And I'd like to give a special welcome to our classroom winners. So I'm going to unmute Miss Angie's class if you would like to say hello. Oh, I don't have you. Give me one moment.
Hi.
Oh, there we go. Now you can say Miss Angie's class. There we go. All right. And let's do, okay, Miss Christian's class. All right, when you're ready. Wonderful. And it looks like we have one more class. Miss Britton's class, possibly?
Hi, yes, we're trying to get our camera working, but
You can do a shout out. All right. So we're very excited to have two incredible guests with us today. Please join me in welcoming Miss Katherine Applegate and Miss Gennifer Choldenko, the co-authors of Dogtown. Katherine and Gennifer, could you each tell us a little bit about yourselves?
Should we go alphabetically?
Yeah, do it.
I am the author of many, many books for young readers. I live in Nevada. I have two grown adult daughters, and I very, very, very much love dogs. This is Boss, and Boss was a rescue who was on the streets of Los Angeles, and she just had puppies, and she needed a home, didn't you? And one of the wonderful things about working with Gennifer is that she likes dogs just as much, right?
Absolutely. That's actually how we started these books, because my dog always loved me until Catherine came over to my house. And then the dog just spent the entire afternoon at Catherine's feet. So I thought, this is the dog whisperer, and I have to do write a book with her. So my name is Gennifer Choldenko. I also write many books, but not as many as Catherine. Oh my gosh. Uh, I have, I think, almost 20, and she has like 150. So let's see, I live in California. And when we started working together, Catherine also lived in California within walking distance of my house. And let's see, what else? I do love dogs, and I also love to write. I feel like I'm blessed to have the best job in the universe.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Now we'll move into our student questions, and this is how it's going to work today. I'll be going across my screen in the order that your classes appear to me. Luckily, it's a small group, so we'll get through a lot of questions. One class at a time, we'll have the chance to ask a question. Teachers, if you could have your next student ready to step up by the mic, by the camera, that will help us get to as many questions as possible. And all right, so on my screen, I am going to call on Miss Angie's class to give us a start with your question.
stand right. Maybe you can go right in front of the camera.
All right. This is Charlotte. Go ahead.
Hi, Charlotte.
A lot of your books have animals as the main character. What inspired this?
Well, I have to say that it's kind of funny that your name is Charlotte because I think both Catherine and I would agree that the best book ever written for kids is Charlotte's Web.
Mhm.
Catherine, you want to tell them about your experience with Charlotte's Web?
Yeah, I hate to confess this, but I didn't like to read very much when I was your age. And I'll bet some of you feel the same way. And my third grade teacher read Charlotte's Web to our class, and because I loved animals, I was like, wait a minute, maybe there's something to this whole book thing. And that started me reading. So I think I've always loved animals. I thought I was going to be a veterinarian when I grew up. And in fact, I worked for a vet in high school. And so writing about them just seemed like a natural extension of that. It's a good question.
Thank you, Charlotte. All right, next we'll go to Miss Christian's classroom. Oh, we'll have to there we go, buddy.
Happy birthday, Catherine.
Oh, thank you.
What's your question, Kelvin?
What keeps you writing and what motivates you to write different books with some of the same characters?
Well, what keeps me writing is I love doing it. It's one of my favorite things to do. So I just don't feel right if I don't have time writing every day. And sometimes there are more stories to the character set that I've come up with, or that in this case we've come up with. It seemed like there was more to it. And so there's this feeling like there are more stories there. What do you think, Catherine?
Yeah, I think that's really true. Sometimes you write a book and there are all these other characters that you want to know more about, and you don't have time to talk to all of them or give them their share of page time. So that's when it's really nice to write a series. And you go back and you see the same characters again. And like Gennifer, and she's really helped remind me of this. Writing is like it's for us, I think. Relaxing. It's like a special place you get to go where you have total control of everything. So you should try it. All of you try writing stories just for yourselves because it's so much fun.
Absolutely. Thank you for your question. All right, our next is Miss Britton's class.
Mm.
Out of your guys' books, what's your favorite book?
Uh-oh. You go
Yeah.
first, Gennifer.
We have trouble with this question just because it's hard to pick. I mean, I always like the book I'm working on right now, and because that's where my head is, and that's where I'm coming up with ideas. You know, because the ideas come all times. Like sometimes right when I'm going to sleep, I have to jump up and write something down, and I love that feeling. So that's the book I always like the most.
Well, I always laugh when someone asks this because I say to kids, would you ask your parents who their favorite kid was? And then the kids always go, yeah, I would. But you love your books like your pets or your babies. And even though they're all flawed and they're not perfect, you love them because they're a part of yourself. So I usually say the books that had something to do with real life, that sometimes were inspired by real life events, like the one and only Ivan. Dogtown is very much about shelter dogs and how they need homes. And so that made it all the more important to write, I think.
Fantastic. All right, now we're going to loop around again to Miss Angie's class.
Okay, go ahead and say your name and then ask your question.
Hi, my name's Ellie. Hi, my name's Ellie.
You go ahead.
What inspired you to start writing your first book?
Uh, uh, well, my very first book was a picture book. Here it is here. Let's see if I can get it out. Oh, there it is. It was a picture book. And it was inspired by being not very good in an art class and seeing everybody around me excelling. So sometimes books, come from all kinds of feelings that you have. And I decided it's a big leap to decide to write a book. But since I was in a class, it was easier.
I always like to ask kids when they ask that, raise your hand if you've ever told a story to somebody, or maybe made up a story in your head or written down a story. Have any of you ever done that? You're all writers, just like Gennifer and I. I think I became a real writer in fourth grade when I wrote my first story, which was about a wild pig. It was about animals even then. Her name was Alice, which is my middle name. And I think that's the day I became a writer. I started writing, my first books were actually what's called ghost written. And that means you don't have your name on the book. I was kind of chicken to start writing because I thought, I'll be so embarrassed if I fail. And you know what? Of course, you always fail when you're trying something new. So I wrote a lot of books for people like Disney. So I wrote Little Mermaid books and Mickey Mouse books, and that's how I started.
Ellie, fantastic question. Now back to Miss Kristen.
Mm.
How long did it take to make your first book?
Ooh.
Well, my first book was a picture books, and it came one day, as I said, when I was really depressed, and so it all came out just out of nowhere. And so I guess, and then I spent some time revising it, and so it was only really about a month, the whole thing. But I have spent as long as 5 years on one book, so it really depends.
It really does. I know, I like to tell kids that when I wrote the one and only Ivan, a book about a gorilla, I got halfway through and I thought, no one on earth is going to read a book about a gorilla. This is crazy. What am I doing? And I threw it in the trash. And that is not a good idea, to hang on to your stories because there's always a little magic in there somewhere. And I yanked it back out and kept writing, but it took me a long time to figure out how to tell the story because it was based on a true story and I wanted to get it right. So I would say typically, I think most middle grade writers would tell you a year or two. But sometimes you can write them much faster and sometimes much slower.
Thank you so much. All right, Miss Britton's class.
What type of books did you like to read at our age?
Well, I like to read lots of different kinds of books. I mean, Charlotte's Web, as I said, but I loved Harriet the Spy. I loved the Frank L. Baum. There's a lot of Oz books that Frank L. Baum wrote. I loved A Wrinkle in Time, Island of the Blue Dolphins, which is historical fiction. So I liked lots of different kinds of books. And I always felt that the books were written just for me. That experience was just mine, which of course is not true, but that's how much I loved the books.
Gennifer thinks Charlotte's Web was written just for her, and Katie
Yes.
Camillo thinks it was written just for her, but it was written just for me. I was, as I said, I wasn't much of a reader to start with. And if you're like that, you have to keep experimenting. I ended up loving animal books. So I loved everything E.B. White wrote, Trumpet of the Swan, Stuart Little. But if you're feeling that way, try different kinds of books. Like one of my favorites is Dogtown. I love graphic novels. And I have a daughter who has dyslexia, maybe some of you do, and she found audiobooks really helped and graphic novels. I have another daughter who just loves nonfiction. So everybody's different.
Wonderful.
And
Miss
there's no
Jan-
right or wrong to what you love. If you love a book, whatever kind, that's great.
Absolutely.
Great question. Next, we'll go back to Miss Angie's class.
Okay, say your name and ask your question.
My name is Giada, and how did you do your research for the one and only Ivan series?
Oh, I knew nothing about gorillas, but that's my favorite part of writing. I think for Gennifer too. We love doing research and learning new stuff. So I read about Ivan's story that he was stuck in a mall, and I just wanted to write about it. So I went to the mall where he actually stayed. I went to the zoo where he ended up. I talked to his keepers. I talked to people who had seen him and known him, and that really helped. But mostly it helped to just learn about how gorillas look at the world. It's the same thing with Dogtown, don't you think, Gennifer? That trying to understand how an animal perceives things.
Yeah, I mean, there's some fantasy elements to Dogtown, but I think that to create a believable world, having tangible details that exist in the real world helps illuminate that world. So it's really important to kind of combine imagination with actual research, I find.
Mhm.
Thanks, Gianna, for your question. Back to Miss Christian's class.
Um, Dogtown is on the Blue Stem list this year. How does it feel to have your book selected?
Oh.
It feels fantastic. I have to say, it's so exciting to be able to have a book on a list that the kids then get to read and decide which ones they like best. Because we write for kids. So it's really about what you guys think and not what, excuse me, teachers and librarians think. It's what you think. That's really the most important thing to me.
Oh, that's so true. It is the biggest honor. It's a whole different thing when you're talking to actual real live readers about what they like to read. And I think it helps us be better writers because we try to think about what is fun for you.
If we had more time, I'd be out there interviewing you because I always want to know what's going on in in
I
the kids'
know.
lives.
Thank you for your question. Back to Miss Brenton's class.
What do you think your next book will be about?
Well, I have found that I don't like to talk about what my next book is about because, when one of the books that has been, the best received for me, I once told someone about it and they just like had this stricken look on their face. Oh no, you're not going to write a kid's book about that. And so I keep my mouth shut. And also because the ideas are still kind of they're moving around in my head, so it's hard to explain what exactly I'm doing because I don't yet know. So I don't really talk about that. So Catherine, it's up to you here.
I read this famous writer once. He said that ideas, when you're writing at first, they're like these bubbles. And if you tell somebody the bubble pops, it's because it's so fragile at that point. But I can tell you because I'm almost done with this one, knock on wood. It's called Wombat Waiting. And it's not about a wombat. A wombat, if you haven't ever seen one, is an Australian mammal that's kind of big and fuzzy. Wombat is actually a dog, and it's set in Los Angeles during wildfire. California has a terrible time with, as many parts of the country now do, with fire. But it's not really about the fire so much as the aftermath. And this dog is trying to find her person. She knows her person is out there somewhere, and she's determined to find him. So it's very much a dog book.
I want to read it.
Awesome. Miss Angie's class.
Hi, my name is Blake, and my question is, what inspired you to write the one and only family?
Oh, I really wanted to First of all, I didn't think there would be more than one book, more than one Ivan book, because I've written a lot of series when I was younger, and I kind of like books with a beginning and a middle and an end. But each of those characters I love so much. It was fun to go back. And one of the things I really wanted to do was imagine Ivan as a dad, because in real life, he was a wonderful uncle. He was really wonderful with the other baby gorillas. So I think he would have made a wonderful dad. And he was very playful and silly, maybe because he grew up with humans. And he lived with an 8-year-old boy. The first couple of years of his life, he slept in the same bed with an 8-year-old boy. Can you imagine sleeping with a baby gorilla? So it was fun to go back and think about what might have been.
Wonderful. Miss Christian's class.
Um, First off, happy birthday, Christian. And my question is, what keeps you writing and what motivates you to write different books with the same characters?
Ah.
Well, you know, I think what keeps me writing is I think it's kind of who I am. I just get up, I work out, and then I write, and I enjoy it. And I some characters I think eh, they continue to keep talking to you. Others, after you've written the book, they fade and you move on to a new book. But sometimes characters keep kind of raising their hand. And so then I start having to pay attention to them. And, you didn't get your everything you want said in that one book, I have to say, and they say no. And so there we are.
That's exactly right. I have noticed, well, honestly, I one of the reasons I keep writing is because I can't seem to do anything else very well. I tried to be a waitress and I was terrible, and I tried to water plants and I was terrible. And then I realized, oh, you know what? Not only is writing something that I seem to be okay at doing, but it's really fun. I'll tell you the opposite version of characters you go back to. Sometimes I have been like halfway through a book. You've probably done this too, Gennifer, and I'll just kill a character off because I'm just like, I don't like you anymore.
Yeah, one other thing that happened, actually, we've written next year is going to be the third. This is the second one, and next year the third Dogtown will be out. And originally for the first Dogtown, we had planned on writing in two voices. Catherine was going to write Chance, and I was going to write Metalhead. And then we were going to alternate chapters, but it didn't really work very well partly because Metalhead's voice uh, eluded me, to be honest. I couldn't really get Metalhead's voice. And so then since the second book is from the point of view of Mouse, we had this idea that the third one would be from Metalhead's point of view, but that meant we had to actually do that, what we hadn't been able to do before. But luckily, because that was a shared thing, it was easier to have Catherine on board because she's brilliant. What can I say?
Back at you.
Thank you for your question. What about Miss Britton's class again?
Is there a character trait you can relate to personally?
Oh,
In one of the Dogtown characters or just in general?
In general.
Well, one thing that seems to come through in a lot of my books is persistence. And I don't really ever plan on, talking about persistence through a character, but because I'm persistent, somehow I often have characters that show that trait.
I think I often write optimistic characters because I'm kind of a pessimist. So it helps me look at the world with a bit of a happier point of view. And it reminds me that, sometimes you have to work to be optimistic. So I think I actually do it in spite of myself.
So it's your alter ego in a sense.
My alter ego, exactly.
Great question. Let's go back to Miss Angie's class.
Hi, my name is
Talk
Piper.
louder.
Hi, my name is Piper. Have you ever started a book that you never finished?
Oh, yes. And I've also started one that I finished that I is still in my drawer, so to speak. Or how about you, Catherine?
I think that's true of every author. And this is a good reminder for all of you when you're working on your stories. Don't throw them away, because put them in a little box somewhere, or, keep them in the back of your brain, because there's always a little diamond in all that coal. It just takes a while to find it. And sometimes you go back and you go, oh, why didn't I like this book? I love this book. So yeah, it's important to hang on to them.
Wonderful. Thank you, Piper, for your question. Ms. Christian's class.
Happy birthday, Catherine. And what book series or book would you recommend for us fourth graders? Written by you or not?
Oh. Gennifer?
Oh, well,
I decided you go first. I don't know why. It's just
I don't know, a book that I really like that just popped into my head. I like a lot of books, but one that I really love is El Defo by C.C. Bell. It's actually a graphic novel, and I really love that book. There's a book that was written that just came out this year by Kate Messner, The Trouble with Heroes. That's also a really good one.
Oh, that's fantastic. I just finished that, and it's really fun. And it's written in free verse with some other stuff thrown in. So it's a real fun read, and it's a fast read, even though it looks like kind of a long book. Um, and El Defo is wonderful, by the way. I actually my sister is a good friend of Cece's, and she's just a absolutely amazing person. She did this wonderful picture book recently. It's an alphabet book, but it has music that goes with it. It's just phenomenal. I like a lot of authors. I love Jason Reynolds. I love Kate DiCamillo. I was thinking about series, and Sarah Pennypacker did this series quite a long time ago called Clementine, and I just loved it. It was so funny. And she just it's kind of reminded me of Beverly Cleary's Ramona books. So if you just want a light,
And
happy,
her Pax books are also wonderful.
oh, and Pax, yeah, both
Yeah.
of them, wonderful. So yeah,
Yeah.
and she's got a new one coming out. So yeah, I mean, there's so many to choose from. It's hard to know.
Yes. Anything Rebecca Stead writes is always good. I love her.
Oh, she's
Yeah.
gorgeous.
Wonderful. Thank you for your question. We have time for one last question from Miss Britton's class.
If you had a different job, what would it be?
If I had a different job, it would definitely be librarian, because I love being around books and I love being able to match kids with books.
Well, I always used to joke that when I grow up, I want to be Jane Goodall, who sadly just recently passed away. She was 91, I think. She was a woman who studied chimps in the wild and discovered that they use tools and they have all kinds of human-like behaviors, or we have chimp-like behaviors, I guess I should say. And I just thought, what a wonderful contribution to be able to observe animals and then share it with the world like that. Unfortunately, I don't think I'd last in the jungle very long because they don't have Starbucks, but
Thank you for your question. All right, as we wrap up, I want to thank Catherine and Gennifer for taking the time to talk with us today. And thank you for all the students for such thoughtful and fun questions. Teachers, if you would like to unmute so your students can say goodbye, we're so glad you could join us. And thank you for being a part of today's Authors Chat. Thanks, friends.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you so much. Great questions.
Thank you, everyone.